Hey girl, let's talk crime. So today we're going to be discussing the serial killer Edmund Kemper. I have actually had this on my list for about a year. Someone had requested a while back, but he, along with Richard Ramirez, are one of my top, just really creepy killers. And so it's taken me a while, but we are going to discuss him today. So Edmund Kemper was born on December 18th, 1948 in Burbank, California, and he had exhibited some pretty disturbing behaviors from a really early age. His mother, Clarnell, was an alcoholic, and she would constantly emasculate his father, Edmund. His father, Edmund, had made a comment about being on the front lines in war was nothing compared to living with Clarnell. So his mother absolutely refused to coddle Edmund for fear that it would make him gay. And so along with that toxic home life, he started to have these dark fantasies kind of come to the surface. So he would play these really disturbing games with his sisters, making them pretend like they were marching him to his death or that he was being killed in a gas chamber. In 1957, his father, Edmund Kemper II, did leave the home, and this is when he really turned up the violence. He was then killing animals. He had killed the family cats. There were two of them. One he had actually buried alive and then unburied it and decapitated it. During this time, with his father out of the home, his mother, Clarnell's aggression turned toward Edmund. She would often make him sleep in the basement where there were rats, different rodents, and she was just really abusive toward him. So when Edmund was 14 years old, he was just tired of his mom's abuse and the way that she was treating him. And so he ran away to go live with his father. However, by this time, his father was remarried, and his father and his new wife, which is Edmund's stepmother, sent Edmund to live with his grandparents. So Edmund said this situation was not any better. His grandmother, Maud, felt like she had more balls than any other man and had to prove it, and would constantly emasculate himself as well as his grandfather, Edmund. He was constantly getting in arguments with his grandmother, and over time began holding grudges against her and was really angry with her. And in August 1964, they got into an explosive argument, and he shot and killed his grandmother. His grandfather, Edmund, was walking up the driveway, and he shot and killed him as well so that he would not find out that his wife had been murdered. So Edmund then called his mother and confessed that he had just killed his grandparents, and he was ultimately sent to a state hospital where they had diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia and also found out that he was a genius. Despite the violent crime that he had committed against his grandparents, he was released in 1969 on his 21st birthday. So after his release, he did go to stay with his mother, and he was denied a job as a state trooper because of his size. He is 6'9" and 300 pounds, and so he did take a position with the transportation department. So as he would be driving around California in this new position, he said that he just wanted to be normal. He wanted to meet people, find a girlfriend, and he really tried to suppress these urges, these dark thoughts. He had picked up over 100 girls without incident. However, he would struggle with seeing an attractive girl and wondering what it would be like to date her versus wondering what her head would look like on a stick. And in 1972, he had picked up two 18-year-olds where he had then taken them to a wooded area where he had planned on assaulting them. However, he panicked and ultimately stabbed and choked them. He had then taken the bodies of these two young women home where he would then rape their dead bodies and dismember them, putting them in plastic bags. Over the next 11 months, he had killed 6 students, and he did eventually move out of his mother's home, but was still frustrated and annoyed because she would always pop up, always call, and his anger towards her from childhood was still there. In January 1973, Edmund did move back into the home with his mother. In April of that same year, he had returned home from a party where his mom was awakened and she was reading a book and asked if he wanted to talk, in which he just said no, good night. And then later on, he did sneak back into his mother's room where he attacked her with a claw hammer. Edmund then slit his mother's throat, decapitated her, and performed oral sex on her severed head. He said that he then yelled at his mother's severed head for over an hour and ultimately smashing her face in. He then called her best friend to come over because he felt like less attention would be put on him if both of them were deceased as opposed to his mom just being killed, because a lot of people knew how much anger he had toward her. When the best friend arrived, he strangled her to death and then fled and drove to Colorado. He then called police where he confessed to the murder of his mother as well as his other victims. When asked what made him confess to the murders, he said that after killing his mother, he just no longer had the urge to kill anymore. He had attempted suicide twice and even requested the death penalty. However, he was ultimately given 7 concurrent life sentences. Today, he is 73 and is being held at the California Medical Facility. Edmund Kemper is a model inmate and he schedules appointments for other inmates and has narrated over 5,000 hours of audiobooks such as Star Wars.